we're zeroing in on a character who, by all accounts, should have been an antagonist in this story. We're talking about a Roman soldier, a centurion.
Right.
And you have to understand the profound paradox right from the very beginning. This man was not a follower of Jesus. He wasn't Jewish. He was a Gentile.
A complete outsider.
A complete outsider. A literal man of war and a representative of the oppressive occupying Roman Empire.
He was the cultural and political opposite of everything the Jewish people were praying for in a Messiah. I mean, he was the embodiment of the very authority they wanted Jesus to overthrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet, when Jesus speaks about this man, the praise he delivers is, well, it's the highest compliment recorded in the Gospels. It's just unparalleled.
He says, "I have not found such great faith, not in all Israel."
It's a stunning statement. I mean, it's almost shocking when you really think about it.
It is.
The Son of God, standing among his own people, maybe even within earshot of disciples like Peter, James, and John.
The inner circle.
The inner circle. Men who had literally dropped everything, their careers, their families, to follow him. And he declares that the most profound, the most deeply insightful faith he has ever encountered belongs to an outsider, a Roman enemy.
The theological and, historical whiplash of that statement is really what we need to unpack today.
It is.
So that's the central question for this deep dive. What did this soldier understand about power, about command, and about the inherent nature of the Messiah that completely escaped Jesus' inner circle?
Because this story is so much more than just a simple account of a miracle. It's a structural teaching moment, and it's hidden inside this highly charged historical encounter.
So our mission is to dissect the entire exchange. We're going to focus intensely on that single, powerful sentence the centurion spoke.
That's the one. It was that sentence, rooted in his military background, that provided the deepest understanding of faith in the New Testament.
It unlocked a miraculous healing, and maybe more importantly, it redefined how true faith recognizes and interacts with divine authority.
So let's start at the beginning. Before we even get to the encounter itself, we really need to understand the character of the man.
Let's do it. We call this Section 1, the context of command and compassion, establishing the centurion's dual identity.
Okay, so we have to begin with his professional identity. The title, Centurion. It isn't just soldier.
Yeah.
This is a highly trained career officer. This is the bedrock of the Roman legion. He commands a centuria, which is a company of about 100 subordinates.
100 men. That is a serious rank. But it's also one that's constantly on the front lines, both literally in battle and, figuratively in occupation.
Right. He was the local administrator of Roman power right there in Capernaum.
The face of the empire.
Precisely. In the military structure of Rome, centurions were, they were brutal, they were practical, and they were highly skilled. Their entire world was defined by absolute, immediate obedience.
If a centurion issued an order,
failure to comply wasn't just insubordination. It was a potentially fatal failure of the entire Roman system of order. He was used to having his word obeyed instantly, without any question, because his power was delegated from the emperor himself.
He was the extension of Rome's will.
That's it, exactly.
So that's the commander side of his identity. He's fully immersed in the structure of violence and strict control, but this is what makes the second part of his identity so utterly striking.
This is the unexpected caregiver.
We see this immense contradiction in his personal life.
It creates a fascinating human portrait, doesn't it? Despite this harsh, authoritative, and let's be honest, often cold professional role, a role that demanded emotional detachment, the source material is explicit.
It says he cared deeply for his servant.
Cared deeply, and this servant was suffering terribly. He was paralyzed and he was dying.
Let's just pause on that word, servant. The Greek term used often refers to doulos, which is a slave.
Right.
And while the nature of Roman slavery varied, the fact that a high-ranking officer would take such extreme personal risk and show such profound concern for the life of a slave it's remarkable.
It is. This was clearly not just a valuable piece of property that he needed fixed.
No, not at all.
Not at all. The severity of the suffering, paralysis, which often led to a slow, agonizing death back then, combined with the extraordinary measures he took, it all indicates a personal bond, a bond that transcended the standard master-servant relationship.
It suggests loyalty, maybe respect.
Deep human affection.
Yeah, think about the desperation here, something we often overlook. This powerful man, who could command the immediate obedience of 100 soldiers, was utterly powerless against an internal craziness happening in his own home.
That's the core of his vulnerability. His Roman authority meant absolutely nothing against the reality of disease and death.
He would have already tried everything available to him.
Oh, absolutely. He would have exhausted the traditional options, the Greek and Roman doctors, the herbal remedies, all the traditional healing practices.
When all of his commanded resources failed him.
He was left with nothing but desperation. The search for healing was no longer about Roman rank. It was purely a desperate, personal plea for survival.
He needed a different kind of power, a power that answered to a different command structure than the legions of Rome.
And this is when he encounters the rumors and the decision.
Right, because in Capernaum, which was this bustling, important town on the Sea of Galilee, a centurion would have been privy to all the gossip.
All the whispers traveling along the trade routes.
Yeah.
Stories of a Jewish teacher, Jesus of Nazareth, were circulating, and these were stories that just defied logic.
Healing lepers, making the blind see.
And critically, healing with a word.
That's the key part. So he had to make this critical internal shift. The centurion, steeped in the rigid, polytheistic, pagan structure of Rome, suddenly entertained the idea that a Jewish religious figure possessed the authority to overturn physical reality.
The decision to seek Jesus was a culturally radical step.
Hugely radical.
For a Roman officer seeking help from a Jewish faith healer, who was himself highly controversial and, potentially politically volatile, that was a massive risk. It risked his standing within the Roman structure.
His reputation.
His relationship with the local governing powers. It was, at its core, an admission of Roman powerlessness.
Which just speaks volumes to the depth of his character and the depth of his concern for his servant.
It does. Desperation pushed him past cultural boundaries, past military protocol, and past political danger. He simply concluded, this Jesus can heal him.
And that leads us directly into the approach itself, which is where all this internal drama just hits the public stage.
This takes us to section 2, the approach and the stripping of rank.
Okay, so we need to visualize the scene in Capernaum. Jesus is likely surrounded by his disciples and a whole throng of Jewish onlookers, maybe near the town square or the synagogue.
A synagogue, which, by the way, some historical accounts suggest the centurion actually helped build.
Which just adds another layer to it. This is the awkward encounter.
Imagine the tension. A Roman officer, clad in his gear, walking toward this group. He is instantly recognizable. He's not just an outsider. He is the symbol of oppression.
He's the face of the occupation that everyone there, including the disciples, despised.
The crowd doesn't part for him out of respect. They part out of fear and suspicion.
Right.
People are stepping back. They're whispering.
They're staring. They're wondering, is this a trap? Is he here to arrest Jesus? Is he here to humiliate him publicly?
The suspicion would have been absolutely palpable. I mean, the Jewish people harbored this deep resentment toward Roman authority.
And the disciples, as loyal Jewish men, would have felt that friction intensely. They might have even, tried to subtly block his path.
But the sources emphasize a really critical point here. Despite this massive cultural and social friction, the centurion didn't care. His mission was singular.
His servant was dying, and his rank was now completely secondary to his deep human need.
The love for his servant had elevated him above his own rank. It elevated him above the risk of social discomfort or political fallout. He was no longer acting as the commander.
He was acting as a man seeking desperate aid.
So when he finally reaches Jesus, we see this transformation is complete. He comes in with the plea, not the command.
This is a remarkable moment of humility. Desperation has stripped him of rank. He doesn't stand tall like a commanding officer. He doesn't demand Jesus' attention.
No, instead he pleads, Lord, my servant lies at home, paralyzed and suffering terribly. It's a complete admission of total helplessness from a man who is professionally paid to be in control.
And what I find so fascinating is Jesus' immediate response. There's no political weighing, no questioning of the centurion's character, even though he's a Roman.
None of that.
Jesus just agrees with speed and total commitment. I will come and heal him.
And this detail is absolutely crucial for what comes next. Jesus was prepared to make the physical journey. He was ready to walk across Capernaum and enter a Gentile's house.
Which was a huge cultural leap for a rabbi. It involves ritual impurity.
A massive leap. But he was willing to do it. And this expectation of a physical healing journey was entirely normal for the crowd and the disciples.
They were all getting ready for the procession. Jesus is going to come to the Romans' house.
Exactly.
And this is the moment that everything just stops cold. The centurion cuts across the entire narrative with a statement that shocks the onlookers and, as we're about to see, shocks Jesus himself.
He was the only person in that entire scene who managed to stop Jesus physically. And it wasn't because Jesus was unwilling to go.
No.
It was because the centurion recognized a deeper, more profound principle of authority that made the physical trip completely unnecessary.
Which brings us to the absolute core of our deep dive. Section 3, the faith that shocked Jesus and the unveiling of the authority principle.
The centurion begins with profound humility, and this is a concept we really need to spend some time on.
The unworthiness.
He declares, "Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof." This is a massive cultural inversion.
Okay, let's break down that word worthy. In the Greek, the word is axios. It signifies being deserving or having a corresponding value or weight.
So the Roman centurion, the man who represents the greatest empire the world had ever seen, who literally controls life and death in Capernaum, declares himself as having no corresponding value to host a poor Jewish teacher.
Wow.
That is the power of it. He understood the immense spiritual gap. He wasn't just observing cultural protocol, he was recognizing the spiritual elevation of Jesus.
By inviting Jesus into his Gentile, Roman, and therefore ritually impure house, he would make Jesus impure according to Jewish law.
Right, and the centurion was acknowledging this barrier. He was saying, I understand the gravity of your spiritual status, and I, a man of violence and a pagan background, am not suitable for that kind of presence.
He didn't ask Jesus to ignore the cultural laws, he respected the boundary. But here's the critical pivot.
This is it.
The humility doesn't breed despair. It's immediately coupled with absolute, unshakable assurance. He doesn't stop after saying he's unworthy. He delivers the line that defines this moment.
Just say the word and my servant will be healed.
Just say the word. That phrase, that's the key that unlocks the entire scene.
It is. In Greek, the word used here is rhema, and while it can simply mean word in this context, when you combine it with authority, it emphasizes the spoken command, the decree.
So he moved the concept of healing away from needing physical proximity or ritual touch or any kind of conditionality.
And placed it entirely into the realm of a verbal, authoritative decree.
And then he gives his justification. He doesn't just state the desired outcome, he explains his logic using the only language he truly mastered, the military metaphor.
This is where we see his sophisticated understanding of hierarchy and delegated power.
He says, "For I too am a man under authority. I say to one soldier, go, and he goes. To another, come, and he comes."
Okay, we need to spend some real time deep diving into that analogy. He's identifying his own position in the chain of command.
Right. He is a commander of 100 men, which is a position of great power.
A position of great power, however, he's also a man under authority. He reports to a tribune, who reports to a legate, who reports to the proconsul, and ultimately to the emperor.
So his own power isn't inherent.
Not at all. It's derivative. It's delegated to him from the apex of Rome's power structure, the imperium. His command is only powerful because of the chain of authority standing behind him.
If Rome fell, his authority vanishes.
Instantly. And he takes his profound structural military understanding and he applies it instantly and perfectly to Jesus.
He's essentially saying, Jesus, I understand hierarchy.
My word is powerful because of the supreme earthly authority of Rome that backs it up. Your word, Jesus, must be infinitely more powerful because you command reality itself.
Wow. He recognized that Jesus' authority wasn't delegated, it was inherent.
That's it. Jesus wasn't operating under the authority of some spiritual legate or tribune. He was the source of all authority. Therefore, his command needed no physical mechanism to enforce it.
So let's consider the comparison he's drawing. The centurion commands 100 subordinates human beings with free will who might rebel or hesitate or fail to follow orders perfectly.
And yet they obey him immediately. So he extrapolates that Jesus must command all of creation, including the sickness, the disease, the paralysis that was holding his servant captive.
The centurion's logic is just breathtaking in its simplicity and its accuracy. The paralysis, the fever, the deterioration of the body.
These are merely subordinates in Jesus' structural command.
So translate the centurion's logic explicitly for us. What was he actually saying to Jesus in practical terms?
He was saying, Jesus, sickness and death are just like my soldiers. They obey you.
You don't need to walk miles to my barracks to enforce an order.
I just issue the command from my post, and it is instantly effective. You don't need to touch my servant. You don't even need to walk into my house. Just issue the command. Just say the rhema and the paralysis, the suffering, the fever. It'll obey its superior officer without question or delay.
This is why the faith is so extraordinary. The centurion, a total outsider, had a higher view of Jesus' divinity than many of the disciples who had literally seen him walk on water.
It's true. The disciples were expecting a physical process. The centurion expected a cosmic decree.
He moved past the expectation of a tactile, visible miracle.
He recognized Jesus as the reigning power, the king whose word carries absolute, immediate, and enforcing force.
Okay, but let's push on the historical context here. Why did the disciples and the crowd expect touch? I mean, they had seen Jesus use saliva and mud. They had seen him reach out and physically touch lepers.
Right.
So why should an outsider assume a verbal command was sufficient when all the insiders expected physical presence?
That's an essential distinction. The disciples were still rooted in the traditional Jewish expectation of prophetic action. Prophets often used physical symbols or rituals, like Elisha telling Naaman to wash 7 times.
Okay, I see.
The disciples viewed Jesus primarily as the greatest prophet. So the miracles that involved touch were tangible, visible proof of power transmission. But the centurion, he saw Jesus through the eyes of pure governance.
He understood the principle of delegated authority so well from his Roman life that he just recognized the hierarchy of heaven must be even stricter.
Absolutely.
If the physical presence of the emperor was unnecessary for Roman law to be enforced in Capernaum, then the physical presence of the Son of God was certainly unnecessary for creation to obey.
Exactly. He viewed the power as inherent in the rank, not in the ritual. And this is why Jesus' reaction is so intensely recorded.
The Bible states that Jesus marveled and was amazed. This is profoundly significant language.
It is. Jesus, being divine, was rarely surprised. He knew the hearts of men. But this centurion's insight, this perfect articulation of faith's mechanism by a Gentile soldier, was so insightful, so penetrating, that it generated an emotional, visible reaction from the Son of God.
It means the centurion had grasped a level of spiritual reality that even Jesus' inner circle, who lived and walked and ate with him daily, had missed.
They were thinking in terms of physical process and adherence to ritual purity. He was thinking in terms of cosmic command and divine hierarchy.
This soldier's faith proved that true faith isn't measured by spiritual proximity, how often you're in church or how many rituals you follow,
but by the profound recognition and acceptance of divine hierarchy. A Gentile outsider defined the necessary mechanism of faith. Absolute belief in the power of the commanding word, irrespective of physical circumstances.
That profound declaration of faith now has to meet the reality of the miracle itself. So let's transition into section 4, the miracle at a distance and the final verdict.
Jesus wasn't going to let this moment pass without cementing the lesson. He had to deliver a very public, very pointed declaration. So he turns to the surrounding crowd, the skeptical onlookers and the murmuring disciples, and delivers his judgment.
And this must have landed like a thunderbolt, he said. I have not found such great faith, even in Israel.
It's a definitive verdict and a powerful challenge. It publicly places the sophisticated, authoritative insight of this Roman centurion above that of God's chosen people.
It challenged their entire expectation of what faith looked like, where it resided, and how it operated. He was redefining the boundaries of the kingdom right there in Capernaum.
He was. And it also provides a huge clue for you, the listener. Jesus recognized that the centurion's faith wasn't just good faith, it was accurate faith. It correctly understood the structure of his power.
Which is why he responds by saying, "Go, it will be done just as you believed."
And notice that critical connection. The healing is tied directly to the nature and the magnitude of the centurion's belief. The outcome precisely mirrors the premise he established.
So let's track the logistics of the healing itself. The centurion leaves the crowd, walks the distance back to his house, which could have been a mile or more, and the healing occurred miles away from where Jesus stood, in a quiet house.
Presumably without witnesses to Jesus' public pronouncement.
Right, and this is the ultimate validation of the centurion's theory of authority. The instantaneous result, as the sources detail, was profound.
The dying servant suddenly breathed deeply, the agonizing pain left his body, and strength instantly returned to his paralyzed limbs.
But the detail that completely validates the centurion's understanding, that verifies his belief was accurate, is the precise timing.
That's the key.
The servant was healed at the exact moment Jesus spoke the words.
This is the mic drop moment of the story. It proves that distance is irrelevant to ultimate authority. The centurion believed Jesus didn't need physical presence, and the sickness, the subordinate, obeyed the decree immediately, regardless of the physical space separating the speaker and the recipient.
No touch, No journey, no ritual, just a command issued by inherent authority, validated by instantaneous obedience.
This confirms that the centurion's faith wasn't merely rewarded, it was proven structurally correct.
It shows that the mechanism of spiritual power is not contingent on our rituals, our physical proximity, or even our declared worthiness.
All of which the centurion had dismissed, but entirely on the inherent immediate decree-making power residing in the person of Jesus.
If that servant had only gotten better later that night or, the next day, the centurion's faith would have been viewed merely as a request for a future miracle.
He was a great point.
But because it happened at the exact moment the word was spoken, it proved his statement. Just say the word and my servant will be healed.
The physical outcome perfectly, instantaneously mirrored the spiritual premise. Faith met authority, and reality shifted.
Now, this can't just remain an interesting historical anecdote. The entire reason we undertake these deep dives is for application. So we have to transition this powerful concept into how we today approach our own crises.
What does this centurion teach us about faith that still works today? This is Section 5, Application: The Enduring Lesson on Faith and Authority.
The centurion made a fundamental distinction in how he viewed Jesus, which, as we noted, is often missed in modern spirituality.
He saw Jesus not only as a miracle worker, the Savior who comes down to our level, but also as the ultimate reigning power, the King whose word carries absolute immediate power to enforce reality.
Think about how we often approach Jesus. We use the Savior mentality. We ask him to come, to touch, to fix, to process the problem with us physically, to see our pain up close.
Right. We want the conditions met. We want the trip across Capernaum. And that approach often leads to disappointment if the process isn't visible.
But the centurion approached him with a king mentality. He understood that a king's decree doesn't require proximity. It requires enforcement across the entire dominion.
His faith wasn't based on the need for Jesus to enter his messy house. It was based on the fact that Jesus already commanded the sickness that was inside the messy house.
His faith said, Jesus, you don't need conditions. You don't need to see it. You don't need to feel it. Just speak.
He recognized the supremacy of the command itself, which operates outside of our need for physical reassurance.
It's the difference between asking a local plumber to drive out and inspect your leaky pipe, which requires time, proximity, physical effort, and asking the universal sovereign of all physical reality to issue a binding command to the laws of physics and biology.
And this leads to the final, critical lesson. The centurion trusted in the nature of Jesus, not just the miracles of Jesus. And this distinction is subtle, but everything rests on it.
Okay, let's elaborate on that distinction fully. What does it mean practically to trust the nature versus the miracles?
Well, trusting the miracles means your faith is contingent on visible proof, on signs, or on a physical, observable process. You need Jesus to walk the miles to your house.
You need him to touch the servant.
Exactly. You need to see the preparation for the command to be carried out. Your faith is rooted in the outcome you can observe.
And if you don't observe the outcome immediately, your faith falters because you are trusting the process, not the power source.
Precisely. But trusting the nature of Jesus, which is the centurion's way, means you trust his inherent, innate authority, whether you see the process or not.
The centurion believed without needing to be present, without demanding proof, and without asking for signs.
His faith centered on the idea that Jesus' rank is absolute and immediate. He didn't need to see the execution of the order because he knew the rank of the one who gave the command.
His approach was rooted in structural belief. I know who you are, I know the rank you hold, and because I know your rank is cosmic, I know your command is sufficient for my localized crisis.
And the power of that faith structure is that it's infinitely scalable. It applies equally to paralysis, spiritual bondage, deep emotional wounds, or severe financial crisis.
The structure of authority remains the same regardless of the specific name of the problem you're facing.
He teaches us that true faith doesn't try to manipulate God, nor does it demand a physical, ritualistic process. It simply recognizes the structure of ultimate command and honors it.
It's the ultimate submission, but it's a submission that comes with incredible assurance.
And that submission comes with the assurance that the command, once issued by the king, is already being carried out by the entire dominion, whether we see the results today or tomorrow or later.
That deep understanding, believing in the inherent authority of the command, is what still bypasses our physical limitations and moves heaven today.
This centurion, a total outsider, defined a type of faith that prioritized Jesus' authority above physical presence or requirement. He gave us the enduring foundation. Just say the word.
His understanding of the military hierarchy provided him with a spiritual insight that was more profound than that of lifelong followers of God.
He gave us the most precise definition of functional faith in the entire New Testament.
So we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on this principle of authority. Consider what it would mean for you to approach your most paralyzing challenges, the situations that feel like they have stripped you of your own control.
Not by begging Jesus to come physically near, but by acknowledging his inherent decree-making power from where he sits on high.
Ask yourself this question, based on the Centurion's profound logic. What would it mean to approach your biggest crisis with the practical military mindset that says, your authority is already greater than this crisis, so I simply wait for your command to be enforced?
That deep understanding, recognizing the inherent power of the King, is the foundation for a faith that still moves heaven, regardless of the distance and regardless of the severity of the crisis.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Centurion's paradox.